Sorry, I'm used to addressing myself as honorable, so sorry for the. My name is Senator Mohamed Tahir Monguno. I represent Borno North Senatorial District, member of this committee.
Any other members from this end?
This side.
Who have just come?
This side.
Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Co-Chairman, distinguished colleagues, invited guests. My name is Senator Kevin Chuku, member of this committee representing Enugu East.
Chairman, Co-Chairman, distinguished.
Representing the good people. Bill, did I say please? It's his character to me that made him call him please. It's actually please. If he changes, I will call him please. Yes. Okay, we had an agreement yesterday, so we are friends. Distinguished Senator Ikra Aliu Bilibis, representing the good people of Zamfara, and the Chairman, Senate Committee on Communications. Baba.
Thank you very much, my distinguished colleagues. My distinguished colleagues, both House and the Senate. Let me start by apologizing coming late. Actually, it's not in my character. I'm so sorry, my distinguished colleagues and the Foreign Minister and his team for coming late. Thank you, my co-chair. Actually, my remarks is going to be very brief because there's no time. That's based to this business. I think, let me start on the existing protocol. It's given me the pleasure to welcome you all to the occasion of the budget defense by the Minister of Communications, Innovations and Digital Economy before the Joint Committee of the Senate and the House of Communications, ICT and Cyber Security. The essence of this meeting is to give a platform to the ministry to render an account of funds appropriated in 2024 Appropriation Act and present the proposal as contained in 2025 Appropriation Bill. The presentation by the ministry will guide the Joint Committee as a subcommittee to present its report to the Appropriation Committee of the two chambers. Honourable Minister, this is a collaborative effort to promote accountability and transparency in the public finance and expenditure, and in turn to get value for money spent. It is also an opportunity to identify challenges and chart a course to overcome them. Honourable Minister, Permanent Secretary, and your top management, please relax and answer questions that may arise from your presentations. Once more, you are all welcome, and I thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much.
We thank the Chairman of the Senate Committee on Communications. Once again, it's a great delight that we welcome the Honorable Minister and his team to this budget defense session that has been coordinated by 4 committees, 2 committees, the Senate, and 2 committees of the House of Representatives. It is indeed very significant and symbolic that this is the first time the Honorable Minister will be here with his team. And we must commend you for coming very punctually today. Not only that, you have also come with the technocrats in your ministry, signifying a synergy between the political office holder and indeed the bureaucracy. And I'd like to thank Engineer Yusuf and the directors who have also accompanied you here today. We might indeed be taking a ministry, but we must bear in mind that what we are doing today is beyond Ministry of Communication, Innovation and Digital Economy. We are looking at a sector that is a sector on its own, and a sector that has recorded the fastest growth since the beginning of Fourth Republic, between 1999 and where we are now. A sector that was contributing something paltry in 1999 to a sector that's contributing almost 20% to our national GDP. So we are not looking at just a ministry. We are looking at a sector that is very critical to our economy. And it's not just a sector. This sector is also an enabler of other sectors. There's other things you can do without technology, whether it's in education, whether it's in health, whether it's in agriculture. So what we are looking at today is not just another sector. We are looking at a sector that's also an enabler of other sectors. And last but not the least, the global competitiveness of nations is no longer measured by the quantum of solid minerals that you have or the oil, but rather by the number of your population that are technology savvy. And with a population that has about 70% as youth, Nigeria is positioned to have an edge in the fourth revolution. We must have lost out in the industrial revolution. We might have missed out in the second revolution. But this is the time that the Western world have aging population. Nigeria has the youngest population, not only in Africa, but among the communities of countries. Therefore, we are looking at not just the defense of a budget of a ministry, we are looking at a sector that's the nerve center of our economy. However, for us to take full advantage of the potentials of ICT, we need to do three things. In the last few days, we have seen ministries and agencies come here with ICT projects. Honorable Minister, you and your team need to harmonize the very many silos that we have all over the place. People doing ICT projects that are not coordinated, leading to investment that do not give us the optimal returns as a country. This is the time to harmonize some of these silos. This is time for you to act as a CTO, as Chief Technology Officer of the nation, to ensure that we harmonize some of these agencies and some of these initiatives that are being carried out. And in this regard, I would like you to ensure that NITDA does its mandate of ensuring that they give clearance to some of these ICT projects. How do we explain a situation where in a particular ministry and its agency, you have a digital library project at the ministry headquarters, you have digital library project in one of its agencies? Pray, why can't this be harmonized? So NITDA needs to begin to look at this. And third and the final one is also the fact that you need to close the gap between your ministry and the legislator, because legislator are one of your number one stakeholders. So as we are here today signifying a new beginning, a new rapport between the ministry and the various committees of the Senate and that of the House of Representatives, I have no doubt that we are starting a new journey together, and that journey will ensure that we build on our strength, we create synergy, we work together to ensure that we translate some of the initiatives in this budget into concrete outcomes that will enhance the life, the well-being, and the wellness of the Nigerian people. The focus is on this economy, is on this sector, and I have no doubt that you are the right person for the position and that you have a team that can deliver on your side. And on this part as well, we have members of the National Assembly who are willing and ready to work with you. On this note, I welcome you once again, Mr. Honorable Minister, and I invite you to make your presentations of 2024 performance highlights and then an insight into what 2025 project looks like. Honorable Minister, please.
Thank you, Chairman, for the kind remarks. The co-chairs for today's session. Please permit me to stand on existing protocol. I think as the Chairman, you've painted a picture that is not only compelling, but I believe is a call to action, not just for the ministry, but for every well-meaning Nigerian. When I got the opportunity to serve in this capacity, of course, I took it with all sense of responsibility and humility, but also being aware as a professional coming from the sector, the weight that has been put on my shoulder. But of course, I was extremely also excited to learn that the committees that we'll be working with at the National Assembly are being led by professionals from within the sector. But I think most importantly, an experienced former minister as well. And I'd like to use this opportunity to appreciate all the chairs for the support and guidance that you've given me. Yes, on surface, we've not been visiting the National Assembly as much as we should be, but I believe that we've been engaging to share our dreams, visions, but also the challenges that we faced as a ministry. Honorable members, distinguished senators, I would like to again reiterate the picture that has been painted, that this ministry, which was established in 2011, represents the future that we all dream of for our country. Today, there's absolutely no nation that can talk of prosperity without prioritizing communications and digital technologies. These technologies, they offer us a unique opportunity to be able to raise the level of productivity across our key sectors. As such,
Can we have some quiet, please? Class, please control this guy, this crowd.
My friend, please keep the gate like this.
Please continue.
thank you so much, Chairman. These technologies that we are all collectively responsible for offer Nigeria and any nation, by the way, the opportunity to leapfrog development, but also close the gaps as well. Historically, it's been demonstrated that technologies have been helpers of humanity. There's been no nation that has been able to develop without prioritizing the application of technology. Also, historically, countries like ours have been extremely disadvantaged because of the development that we've seen in the evolution of these technologies, which has been led by specific nations all over the world, thereby making it difficult for countries like Nigeria to catch up. But the emergence of digital technologies disrupted the play of how technologies are appropriated. The barrier became extremely low for countries that are willing to push forward. And historically, Nigeria as a country stepped up in 1999 to deregulate our telecommunications sector. This deregulation led to a vibrant sector which has attracted significant investment into the development of the telecommunications sector in Nigeria, which makes it the highest grossing on the African continent today. So the largest and most referenced communication sector in Africa is in Nigeria. As such, we've seen significant investment in this sector, helping us to raise the level of productivity significantly and indirectly raising the gross domestic product of our nation as well. So if you follow the growth in the sector since 1999, you will see that our GDP has been growing almost 30% year on year. And when you look at development in the country, there are not that many other movements that you can point to but the deregulation of this sector. However, there's been significant changes in the sector since this time as well. is gone from being a sector that is responsible for just telecommunications into evolving as the digital economy, which is the backbone of every sector. Whether you talk about agriculture, you can see the role of smart technologies in leapfrogging development in the agricultural space. Security today is impossible without a robust communications infrastructure in any nation. Our education system is begging for the introduction of digital technologies, but also communications technologies. We've seen the contribution of the technologies that we're responsible for on the entertainment sector in Nigeria. Nollywood has always been there, but the emergence of our communications technology led to a significant growth of that sector. We've also seen the contribution of digital technologies to the startup ecosystem in Nigeria, moving us from a country that was not even part of the top 10 destination for technology startup funding to becoming number 1 or 2, with about 7 unicorns. These are businesses that are worth over $1 billion, originating from Nigeria. Upon my appointment, the ministry decided to conduct a thorough review of everything that has been achieved by this sector, recognizing that our country is a country which is having about 5 million new people every year, projected to grow to 500 million people by 2050 in just about 20-25 years' time from now, with an average age of 16.7, and a growing disconnect all over the world, not just in Nigeria, between the people and their leaders. It was a such imperative that we put together an agenda that will help achieve Mr. President's set agenda, the Renewed Hope agenda. Notably, the goal of driving a $1 trillion economy. To this end, the ministry decided to come up with a strategic blueprint. This strategic blueprint focused on 5 key pillars. One, which is knowledge as the foundation, and you can find this on page 7. Recognizing that it is impossible for us to appropriate technology without a strong workforce, but also recognizing that there's a significant gap in global technology workforce. Most European countries are aging in population and they're not giving birth to new kids, which means there's an opportunity for Nigeria to become a net exporter of technology talent. And also in line with Mr. President's agenda of creating 1 million technical jobs, we saw a unique opportunity for our ministry to contribute to this agenda. In addition to this, we also saw the clarity in the need for us to ensure that our policies are forward-thinking, but also responsible for driving innovation, which is why we came up with about 10 different policies that must be enhanced or in some cases totally redesigned, including the National Digital Economy and E-Governance Bill that is being led by some of our chairmen in the room today. We also saw the need to drive up the growth and strengthen our digital infrastructure, recognizing that we cannot grow our digital economy if we have a weak foundation, which is the digital infrastructure. An example is the fiber optic network that is required to drive digital economy in the country, which historically the study has shown that must be around 120,000 kilometers and above, but we currently have about 35,000 to 40,000.
Honorable Minister,
Yes?
I know you have prepared a lot, and I also know this is your first time of coming, so you want to offload as many as much information as possible, and we truly appreciate that. But because there are so many other competing committee meetings, and so just give us a highlight about the 5-point agenda, the 2024 budget performance, and then the outlook for 2025. We may need to organize another session to fully immerse ourselves in those 5-point agenda. They are making a lot of sense, but because of we have also budgeted time, and we don't want to do budget of our own for the time. So please summarize those preliminary preambles, then talk about 2024 highlights, then let's talk about 2025 very briefly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the picture I was trying to paint, which again is to reiterate the importance of our sector, is first to make a case that this is a ministry that is extremely underfunded. And this is our collective responsibility, not just as a ministry, but also as committees responsible for oversight of the work that we do. This ministry is unable to deliver its mandate if we continue to fund it the way it's been funded. In fact, to achieve what we've achieved so far, we've had to look for money from outside of government to get work done. A lot of the international trips that we've made to secure opportunities for this sector and the nation were funded from outside of government's pocket. So I think before we even go into the budget, it is extremely important that we put emphasis on the fact that this is a ministry that is poorly funded. So the budget we're about to discuss today is actually not a significant worth of the time of all of us in this room, because this budget cannot deliver on the mandate that we should be working on for our nation. And I think at that point, I will go into the budget. Speaking specifically, okay. Okay. Speaking specifically to the numbers, 2024 budget, which you can find on page 9. The first line, which is personnel budget.
Okay, share this. We're going to have 3 copies. Let's share for the later. All right, so please go on.
The personnel budget allocated for 2024 came to 1,263,650,235 naira.
Just focus on the capital.
The capital, okay. The capital budget released was 2,973,557,866 naira. As you can see, amount released till date is less than half of this budget, which came to 1,263,180,766 naira, which has been fully spent, thus representing 39% of the total budget in terms of budget.
For those who may not have a copy of this, what the minister is saying is that in 2024, the entire ministry and the sector called Communication, Innovation and Digital Economy, the total capital budget was 2.9 billion, out of which only 1.2 billion was released. And I think that's the point we want to emphasize, that 2.9 billion was the total capital budget appropriated. out of which only 1.2 billion. So an average of
40%.
100 million per month for the capital project of Federal Ministry of Communication, Innovation and Digital Economy. You can now move to 2025.
Thank you so much. And I wasn't trying to waste your time. Just to paint the picture, the German Chancellor visited our president last year, reiterating the fact that there's a huge technical talent gap in Germany. And there's the fact that there's opportunity for young Nigerians to either work remotely or actually come to Germany for work in the technical space. We prioritized our technical training program. That program alone, just to be able to train about 160,000 people, we've raised over 2.5 billion from the private sector. And this is money they pay directly to over 100 organizations across the country. The money doesn't come to government, goes straight to, they're using Lagos Business School to disperse the money. And just to give an example, that is one program alone. The entire budget, the entire figure that we've been able to raise is actually more than what's been allocated to this sector. So we do have a significant problem that the work that we're meant to do for the nation will be impossible if we continue with this sort of budgeting for a ministry this important. As directed by Mr. Chairman, I will now go into 2025 budget. Again, we received an indication. I think we prepared initially a budget that, to the best of our understanding, was extremely modest, that will also leverage the focus of the ministry to help the government achieve the objectives that was stated in the medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper. In fact, what we did was when MTEF was released, we gathered all the agencies under the ministry, and we came up with a strong plan on how we can support the goals of the government. As you can remember, the collective national target for GDP growth for 2025 is 4.6%, and 2026 in the MTEF is projected at 4.4%, and 2027 is 5.5%. If we follow development in the sector, where we've been contributing about 16 to 18% to the GDP, there's strong clarity that for the country to achieve these numbers, that our sector must contribute significantly. We decided to put together a budget that I believe was just at about 12 billion, but also the cap that we released for our ministry came to about 6 billion thereabouts. And this is what's informed what we've put together. However, if you're looking at the appropriation bill, you will find that one of the things that we've done, traveling all over the world, engaging with the World Bank, is to believe that we should create opportunity for our sector, that we must create opportunities for stakeholders in this sector by ensuring that Nigeria can significantly invest in the strong backbone to drive the growth that we need to see. If you look at the numbers from the World Bank, it says if you're able to improve the quality of connectivity by 10%, you will be adding at about 2.5% growth rate to the economy. There's no other significant investment that is known today in any country that can lead to 2.5% increase. Which means if you take the current growth rate of our GDP, if our sector is able to contribute 2.5% to the GDP of Nigeria, Nigeria will actually be doing much more than 4.6% that we're talking about today, because this sector is extremely critical. And this is why we've made very spirited arguments to funders. Without any funding to propose the case, we've worked hard internally as professionals and political appointees, also with the support of the committee chairs, to secure the commitment of the World Bank, AFDB, and a number of other DFIs to help us invest in a $2 billion project that will lay 90,000 kilometers of fiber optic cables across this country. And our hope is that this will not just provide opportunities for existing MNOs. This will help us create new small businesses that will be responsible for laying 90,000 kilometers of fiber network. This will help us create nothing less than 10,000 jobs of young men and women that will drive the deployment of this cable all over our country. The 90,000 kilometers cable will be everywhere in the country. This is the plan that has been made by the broadband plan that has been there from the previous administration that we've also reassessed, and we've seen the need to execute on this. We believe that this will stir up things in the economy. This will give stakeholders the opportunity to create wealth and prosperity. And this will also give us a significant chance to contribute to the growth of our GDP. But not stopping there, this same investment will ensure that we have meaningful connectivity all over our country. That young women, men will not have to travel from our village in Abeokuta to go to Lagos, or travel from Zamfara to go to Kano for economic opportunities. That wherever they find themselves in the country, they will be able to participate in the global digital economy. So you can see that fortunately for us, Mr. President and Federal Executive Council approved this project last year, and this has been identified and included in the budget for the ministry. But again, when you go away from this, you will then see that the ministry, though we've made progress, we're still back at about 6 billion for our capital projects. Just to put it in context, I was in Geneva with the International Trade Center, International Telecommunications Union, and I was informed that the EU alone has 45 million euros allocated to digital economy in Nigeria. And for those who work with these institutions, as much as they engage, they also have their programs and they control the spending of the budget. Our ministry, we've tried heavily to work with them to ensure that they can direct this funding towards what we want to achieve as a nation. But the statement here is to call our attention to the fact that even our own budget is not up to 20% of what the EU has budgeted for our sector. So we still have significant shortage in this sector. And in closing, I'd like to again point to what Mr. Chairman has mentioned, that the biggest challenge we have as a sector is actually the fact that every MDA in the land has strong budgets for ICT, that we have no contribution to. And the call for us to have stronger policies and measures for demanding engagement is not just so that we can control this budget, it's to help the country save money. Because what we're seeing today is a waste of significant resources being duplicated in many MDAs. If we have strong oversight from the National Assembly to NITDA and to the audit committees that may be responsible for ensuring that these resources are used appropriately, collectively we'll be able to help guide the nation to using these resources effectively. I will stop here for now, and not to take too many more of your time. And I believe that with the team, we'll be more than happy to answer specific questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I've listened to your presentation attentively, and I think there are 5 takeaways. Number 1, your 2024 budget was 2.9 billion out of capital, out of which 39% of 1.2 billion was released to run the sector, a sector that contributes about 13–14% to our national GDP. 18%. The second takeaway was that you had to resort to private sector and donor organizations. I use the example of the 3MTT project that you have trained 160,000 youth. And the support for that came from private sector organizations who contributed 2.5 billion, which was more than the entire capital appropriation for your ministry. And in 2025, the capital project, the capital allocation using the envelope system was also only 6 billion. However, the figure that we have seen in the capital proposal now is as a result of World Bank loans that the Federal Executive Council had approved to power the 90,000 kilometers of fiber across the country, because 10% increase in our connectivity will lead to at least 2.5 increase in our GDP. Finally, you also said there are a number of ICT budgets in various ministries and agencies that if we have aggregated them together, we could have made more savings, we could have gotten more impact, and the country could have also negotiated country-wide agreement with the OEMs. Those are the 5 things I could get from your submissions. But before we proceed, I need to crave the indulgence of Senate Chief Whip, who has been here all along. I didn't want to interrupt the minister's presentation, so please, Chief Whip, please don't whip me. I will have asked you to introduce yourself earlier, but because of the presentation, I wanted us to get a sense of the presentation. If you don't mind, the Chief Whip, please introduce yourself, sir.
Okay, thank you, Chairman, for the recognition. My name is You
used to be in the House of Reps.
Now, I think I'm going to merge the distinguished members. I'm going to merge the two things together. We're all working for government, and I think we should not allow our enemies to paint this administration negatively. Our ICT sector, including the minister and the ministry, is recognized as one of the best in the world. Today, I had the privilege of visiting the U.S. government with the chairman and co-chair. The respect that we command is not only in mouth. I have a data here. What they are saying in the media is different from the reality. Despite the fact that we're not funded, in Q1 2021, the total FDI to this sector was just slightly below 50 million. In Q1 2022, it was under that. In Q1 2023, it was just around 22 million. In Q1 2024, this country saw FDI of close to 200 million. Q1 2024 was everything and more that was done in 2023 or 2022 or 2021. Nigeria today is rated 100% in terms of vision when it comes to artificial intelligence. We're amongst the first 60 countries. Judged by the UN, Oxford University rated us when it comes to vision 100%, that we have a clear vision. We are doing extremely well in the last 16 months. The progress in the...
We have taken cognizance of the fact that looking at a capital project of over 400 billion this year, it might be misleading to think that this is indeed a capital allocation from the federal budget. Only 6 billion from that is capital allocation using the envelope system. The remainder is largely World Bank funding, which requires that we also need the legislative approval for this loan to actually materialize. Distinguished colleagues, honorable members, you have the floor to interact, and may I yield the grant to the Chief Whip of the Senate, Honorable Distinguished Mohamed Ali Muguno, to please.
No, I think today is a significant day, and I think exemplary as well. This is a sector that is being led by professionals, both at the legislature and but also executive as well. You know, we have 4 committees that have oversight on the work that we do. And this committee is led by, all of them are led by professionals from our sector. So I think we're extremely fortunate. And of course, you know my own credentials as well, where I'm coming from. The permanent secretary is also an engineer. So I think Nigeria is extremely lucky to have this mix of people. Our deliberation was not just on defending the budget, but looking at the role that our sector is meant to play in driving the growth that the government of the land at this time is set for all of us. And so we're looking at the budget that we have to work with. What are the opportunities out there that we can use to identify more resources? And how do we ensure that we use those resources to deliver for the benefit of our people? We know the key urgent issues. A lot of young people in Nigeria, there's significant opportunity for them to find meaningful employment in our sector. So we want our sector to be a key driver there. The second one is also communications. Telecommunications and all digital economy is now extremely important for every single Nigerian. So our priority is how can we collectively work together to drive that benefit for them. Looking at the budget that we have, which of course is limited, but saying how do we work with development partners and partners all over the world to deliver on our promises to our people.
So Nigerians will want to know what influenced the recent hike in tariffs.
It's part of the development. I think the hike is also based on inflation globally. This is a sector that has not increased price for a long time. In fact, what government has been doing is managing the situation. The companies have been crying out for a long time that they're struggling. The cost of diesel, you can imagine how much they bought diesel last year and how much it's going for this year. And this is not a problem that is unique to Nigeria. But what we've done with them is saying that telecommunication services are now extremely important to our people. So it's not something you can just increase price haphazardly. But also how do we support them to ensure that these companies continue to stay sustainable? This is a sector that employs about 15,000 people directly, the employees of these MNOs. But also indirectly, I think there's about 500,000 people working in the sector, whether those that are selling recharge cards or any of those services. We have to make sure that the sector continues to stay sustainable. But at the same time, we don't want to inflict pain on Nigerians. So they were claiming for 100% increase in tariff. I think as you can see from what NCC released yesterday, we had a lot of back and forth. They've been talking about since even before we were appointed. The first time I met them almost 16, 17 months ago, it was the same thing they were talking about. But now I think we've set it at about 50% to ensure that they can find ways to stay sustainable, but also the price hike is not significant to the point where it becomes painful for our people.
Are you not scared the hike would derail the country's broadband penetration target, as some people are likely to miss out because of the cost?
It's actually, that's a dilemma when people look at it. It's actually going to increase it. Broadband penetration is based on investment in infrastructure. That's the way it is. If you don't have the telecommunications infrastructure, that penetration is not going to happen. And the difficult part of this sector is that the equipment you used 5 years ago is not necessarily what you're going to use now. You have to keep updating, which is why you see that even 5G, some countries in Africa, I think Ghana is just getting on 5G. Right? Some countries in Africa don't even have spectrum for it. Because if you start it, the MNOs must have the appropriate equipment and they have to keep investing. So it's a double-edged sword where if you keep it low and these companies are not making enough money to continue to invest, that penetration is not going to happen. But what government is also now doing is saying we will not leave it to private sector alone, which is why we've started the 90,000 kilometers fiber optic network that we want to build. We've been raising the money. We have significant commitment from the World Bank. Our goal is that before the end of the year, that government starts to also lay. So we're not waiting for private, because private companies will only invest where they can make money immediately. But if government can also invest, it means all Nigerians, wherever you find yourself, you can have access to quality connectivity services, which is now almost like a human right for anyone. Because if you don't have it, you're caught out of reality. If we collect all of your phones for 24 hours, you can imagine what will happen to you. Now imagine those who don't have access to it. We shouldn't do that to them. So that's the balance we're trying to strike. Yeah. Thank you.